The night was calm over the small town of Maplewood. The stars twinkled softly, and the cool breeze rustled through the trees. Lavra Miller sat on her porch, sipping a warm cup of tea, while keeping an eye on her children, Lily and Ethan, playing in the backyard. Their laughter echoed in the quiet night, filling her heart with joy. Lavra loved these moments. They were simple, ordinary, and yet they felt perfect. Suddenly, a strange light appeared in the sky. At first, Lavra thought it was a plane, but it moved too slowly and silently. Her eyes widened in fear as the light grew brighter and hovered above their backyard. Before she could react, beams of light shot out and enveloped Lily and Ethan. They screamed, reaching out to their mother, but they were lifted off the ground and into the sky. Lavra rushed toward them, but the bright light blinded her, and in seconds, they disappeared into the unknown. Lara fell to her knees, her heart pounding, tears streaming down her face. She screamed for help, running to her neighbors, but no one could see what had happened. The bright light vanished as quickly as it appeared, leaving only silence and an empty backyard. She clutched at the grass, desperate and panicked. Her children were gone, and she knew she had to do something. Determination replaced her fear. Lavra refused to give up. She spent days and nights researching, looking for any clues about these strange abductions. She read reports, articles, and stories of alien encounters. Slowly, she realized that these creatures were intelligent, dangerous, and had advanced technology. Most people would have been too scared to act, but Laura's love for her children gave her strength. She learned that aliens often followed patterns in their abductions. Using this knowledge, she predicted where they might have taken Lily and Ethan. With a borrowed SUV and supplies, Lavra set out alone, her mind focused and sharp. The journey was long and exhausting, but her determination never wavered. Every mile brought her closer to the beings who had taken her children. Along the way, she met other humans who had faced alien threats. Jack, a former pilot, and Mary, a scientist, joined her cause. They shared their experiences and warned Lavra of the dangers ahead. The group formed a bond, united by their losses and a common goal. Together, they traveled through abandoned towns, deserts and forests, always alert, always moving. They encountered alien drones patrolling the skies and forests. Each encounter was dangerous, but Lavra learned to fight with whatever she had at hand. She improvised traps, used distractions, and relied on her instincts. Her anger and love for her children gave her courage beyond measure. She never faltered, even when the dangers seemed overwhelming. As they neared the location where the aliens were hiding, Laura's anxiety grew. Her hands shook and her heart raced, but she knew she could not stop now. Lily and Ethan were alive somewhere, and she would not rest until they were safe. She visualized their faces, their laughter, and her love for them gave her an unshakable resolve. The journey had changed her. Laura was no longer just a mother. She had become a fighter, a protector willing to face unimaginable dangers for her children. The quiet town she once knew felt distant and unimportant compared to the mission ahead. She had learned to trust her instincts, rely on her courage, and act decisively. Finally, after days of travel and danger, they approached the alien stronghold. The structure was hidden among the mountains, glowing with strange lights that pulsed like a heartbeat. Lavra felt a mix of fear and determination. She knew this was where her children were held. She steeled herself for what was to come, ready to face whatever waited inside. Jack and Mary stayed behind to monitor and provide backup, trusting Lavra to lead the rescue. She approached the entrance quietly, her heart pounding. The walls of the structure shimmered and shifted as if alive. Strange sounds echoed from within, sending chills down her spine. But Laura did not hesitate. She reminded herself that Lily and Ethan depended on her. Their lives were in her hands. Inside, The base was like nothing she had ever imagined. The corridors glowed with strange energy, and creatures with metallic skin and glowing eyes moved silently. Lavra moved carefully, hiding in the shadows, watching the aliens and learning their patterns. She understood that brute force alone would not save her children. She needed strategy, cunning, and courage. Hours passed as she navigated the maze-like structure, avoiding the trolls and traps. Laura's heart ached with fear and hope. She imagined Lily and Ethan trapped in pods, scared and alone. The thought gave her strength. She whispered their names to herself, letting their presence in her mind guide her steps. Every decision, every movement was made with one goal in mind: rescue. Finally, she reached the chamber where the children were kept. They were inside translucent pods, floating and unconscious. Relief and fear collided in her chest. Laura's hands trembled as she worked to unlock the pods, carefully avoiding the alarms. She knew that any mistake could alert the aliens, but her focus was unwavering. As the pods opened, Lily and Ethan gasped and woke, eyes wide with fear. Lavra held them tightly, whispering reassurances and telling them she was there. The children clung to her, finding comfort in her embrace. Lavra knew the hardest part was still ahead, getting them out safely. The aliens noticed the disturbance. Alarms blared, lights flashed, and creatures rushed to intercept them. Laura's mind raced. She had to escape quickly. She grabbed Lily and Ethan, moving with speed and precision through the alien base. Her love for them gave her power she did not know she had. She fought, dodged, and ran, relying on every skill and instinct she had developed during her journey. Finally, she reached the exit. The bright night sky greeted them, and the cool air filled their lungs. The alien base behind them began to collapse, energy surges and explosions shaking the ground. Lavra held her children close, tears streaming down her face. They were alive, safe, and free. The terror of the night was behind them, and the bond between them had grown stronger than ever. After escaping the alien base with her children, Lavra Miller knew she could not stay in Maplewood. The town was too small, too exposed, and she feared the aliens might return. With Lily and Ethan safely in the back seat of her SUV, Laura drove through the night, the road stretching endlessly ahead. Her mind raced with thoughts about what to do next. She could not go to the police. They would not believe her. She needed a plan, and she needed help. The children were frightened but unharmed. Lavra spoke softly, reassuring them that they were safe and that she would never let anything happen to them again. She reminded them of the journey she had taken to save them, of the strength and courage it had required, and how proud she was of them for staying brave. Their small hands gripped hers, and she felt a surge of determination. She could not fail them now. The next morning, Lavra stopped at a secluded rest area. She parked the SUV and let the children rest while she gathered her thoughts. She needed allies, people who could help her fight against beings so advanced and dangerous. She remembered hearing about a small group of humans who had survived alien attacks. With a sense of hope, she decided to track them down. After hours of driving, she arrived at a remote cabin in the woods. There, she met Jack, a former pilot who had fought against alien threats, and Mary, a scientist who studied alien technology. They were cautious at first, wary of strangers, but Laura's story and the children in her arms convinced them. She was telling the truth. They agreed to help, but warned her that the aliens were cunning, fast, and far more powerful than humans. Lavra listened carefully, determined to learn everything she could. Jack and Mary shared their experiences. They had faced alien drones, strange energy weapons, and creatures that could think faster than humans. They had survived, but only through cunning and teamwork. Lavra realized that she had something they lacked: raw determination and a mother's love. Her focus on saving Lily and Ethan was a force they could not match. Together, they planned the next steps. Using maps, satellite images, and intercepted alien signals, they identified the location of the main alien base. It was hidden deep in a mountain range, far from human settlements. The journey would be dangerous, but it was their only chance to end the threat and ensure the children's safety permanently. The days that followed were grueling. Lavra, Jack, and Mary traveled through forests and deserts, avoiding towns and highways. They moved at night to avoid detection and rested only when necessary. The aliens had drones patrolling the skies, and every shadow or rustle of leaves could mean danger. Laura learned to be vigilant, her senses sharpened by fear and determination. During their journey, they encountered alien patrols. Laura's heart raced each time a drone hovered nearby, its metal body glinting in the moonlight. She improvised traps from rocks, sticks, and whatever materials were available. Jack helped with tactics, and Mary monitored alien energy signatures, warning them of approaching danger. Laura's leadership and bravery inspired them, and they worked together as a team, each person relying on the others. One night, as they camped near a dry riverbed, the aliens attacked. Drones swarmed, scanning the area with bright lights. Lavra shouted for the children to hide while she and her allies fought back. Using their traps and careful planning, they managed to disable several drones. Sparks flew as the machines crashed, and Lavra felt a rush of victory. She knew the battle was far from over, but she also knew they could survive if they worked together. The children were shaken, but remained strong. Lily clung to Lavra, while Ethan tried to act brave, his small fists clenched in determination. Lavra reassured them constantly, speaking softly and telling stories of courage and hope. She knew their spirits were fragile, and she protected them as fiercely as she would fight the aliens themselves. As they moved closer to the mountains, the terrain became rougher. Steep cliffs, dense forests, and rushing rivers slowed their progress, but Laura's determination never wavered. Each step forward was a step closer to freeing her children from the threat of the aliens forever. She trained herself and the children to move quietly, to avoid leaving tracks, and to remain alert to every sound. At one point, they discovered an abandoned village. It was eerily quiet, with houses in ruins and signs of struggle everywhere. Lavra felt a pang of fear, realizing what the aliens could do. Yet she also saw evidence of human resilience, notes left behind, supplies hidden, and makeshift shelters. She was reminded that humans had survived worse before, and that their ingenuity could overcome even the most dangerous threats. Finally, after weeks of travel, they reached the outskirts of the mountain range where the alien base was hidden. Laura's heart pounded with anticipation and fear. The structure was massive, glowing with an unnatural light, and energy fields shimmered around it. This was where Lily and Ethan had been held before, and where the aliens would be preparing for further plans. Lavra knew she had to act carefully, but she also knew that there was no turning back. Jack and Mary helped her plan the infiltration. They studied patrol patterns, energy barriers, and the layout of the alien base. Lavra took mental notes, determined to remember every detail. She thought of her children and imagined the fear in their eyes, the longing for freedom. That image steeled her resolve. She would not fail them, no matter the cost. As night fell, Lavra led the group toward the base. They moved silently through shadows and rocks, avoiding detection. Every step was calculated, every breath measured. Laura's mind was sharp, her focus unbreakable. She reminded herself that the aliens were intelligent, but she had something far more powerful: love, determination, and the will to protect her children. The base loomed ahead, dark and imposing, but Laura did not falter. She knew that inside there would be dangers, but also the chance to end the threat once and for all. She glanced at Lily and Ethan, who clung to her hands, trusting her completely. Lavra felt a surge of courage. The journey had been long, and the danger great, but the fight was not over. It was just beginning, and she was ready to face whatever came next. The alien base loomed before Lavra Miller, its walls glowing with an eerie light. The mountains around it were silent, except for the distant howl of the wind. Lavra held Lily and Ethan close, their small hands clinging to hers. She could feel their fear, but she forced herself to stay calm. She knew she had to lead them carefully through danger if they were going to survive that check, and Mary had stayed behind to watch the base from a distance. They communicated quietly through small radios, giving Lavra updates about patrol movements and energy patterns. The aliens were more numerous than she had expected, moving swiftly through the corridors and scanning the perimeter with drones. Laura took a deep breath, reminding herself that she was here for one reason: to rescue her children. She moved along the shadowed rocks toward a side entrance. The walls shimmered with alien energy, and strange sounds echoed from within the base. Lavra pressed herself close to the ground, her eyes scanning every movement. She whispered to Lily and Ethan, telling them to stay low and quiet. Their small no. These gave her courage. She could see the trust and hope in their eyes. The entrance was guarded by drones, hovering silently and scanning for intruders. Lavra waited for the right moment, counting each second carefully. When the patrol drones moved away, she darted forward, slipping inside. The interior was unlike anything she had ever seen. The corridors were smooth, metallic, and lined with glowing panels. Strange symbols pulsed along the walls, and the air felt charged with energy. Laura led the children through a maze of passages. She had memorized the layout from the intel Jack and Mary had gathered, but the alien base was complex and disorienting. Every turn revealed new dangers: drones gliding silently above, strange mechanical arms moving with precision, and energy fields that could trap or harm anyone who touched them. Lavra stayed calm, guiding Lily and Ethan with steady hands and soft words. At one point, they reached a large chamber where pods floated in the air, glowing faintly. Laura's heart leapt. This had to be where other abducted humans were kept. She saw faint outlines of people inside some pods, unconscious but alive. Her resolve strengthened. She would not leave without her children, but she would also fight to prevent harm to others if she could. Suddenly, a patrol drone entered the chamber. Its sensors swept the room, searching for intruders. Laura quickly pulled Lily and Ethan behind a stack of floating containers. She held her breath as the drone hovered near them, its lights scanning slowly. Sweat dripped down her face, but she remained motionless. When the drone moved on, she exhaled quietly and continued forward. Finally, after what felt like hours of careful movement, Lavra found the room with Lily and Ethan's stasis pods. Relief and fear collided in her chest. The pods were sleek and metallic, humming with alien energy. Inside, Lily and Ethan were unconscious, but they looked unharmed. Laura's hands shook as she worked to unlock the pods, using tools and methods she had learned from Mary's instructions. The pods hissed and clicked, and with each movement, alarms threatened to trigger. Lavra focused entirely on her task, her mind blocking out fear and panic. She whispered to her children, telling them to wake up, that she was there, and that they were going home. Slowly, Lily's eyes fluttered open, followed by Ethan's. They looked around in confusion, but relaxed when they saw their mother. Lavra hugged them tightly, whispering words of comfort. Their small hands clung to her, and she felt a surge of energy and courage. But there was no time to waste. The aliens would notice the intrusion soon, and they had to escape. As she guided them toward the exit, alarms blared. Red lights flashed throughout the corridors, and alien creatures moved swiftly to intercept them. Lavra held Lily in one arm and Ethan's hand in the other, running through the maze of passages. She shouted directions to the children, telling them where to turn and when to duck. Her instincts, sharpened by weeks of preparation and fear, guided them. The aliens were relentless. Drones and creatures blocked passages, forcing Lavra to make quick decisions. She used objects in the corridors as shields and distractions, throwing pieces of metal to divert attention and creating openings to move forward. Every step was dangerous, but she refused to give up. Finally, they reached a chamber leading to the exterior. Lavra could see the night sky through the energy field at the exit. But the field pulsed violently, and she realized she had to disable it to escape. Using the tools she carried and the knowledge from Mary, she worked quickly, cutting wires and pressing panels. Sparks flew, and the energy field wavered. The children's eyes were wide with fear, but Lavra encouraged them, telling them to stay close. With one final adjustment, the field collapsed and the exit was clear. Lavra held Lily and Ethan tightly and ran toward freedom. The base shook, alarms blaring and lights flashing as the aliens reacted. The sounds of pursuit echoed behind them, but Lavra focused only on the path ahead. They burst out into the night air. The mountains stretched before them, dark and silent, but free. Lavra ran down the rocky slope, her arms holding her children close. Behind them, the alien base's lights flickered and pulsed, and then a distant explosion shook the ground. They had escaped, and Laura's courage had brought them through. The children clung to her, crying and laughing at the same time. Relief washed over Lavra, but she knew their journey was not yet complete. They needed to get far away, to a safe place where the aliens could not follow. She led them to the SUV, where Jack and Mary waited, and together they drove into the night, hearts pounding but spirits high. Laura's mind was already planning the next steps. The base was damaged, the aliens would regroup, and danger still lurked. But she had learned something important. Her courage, love, and determination were stronger than any alien technology. As she glanced at Lily and Ethan in the back seat, she knew she would face any challenge to protect them. And for the first time in weeks, she allowed herself a small smile. They were alive, they were together, and she was ready for whatever came next. After escaping the alien base, Lavra Miller knew that danger was far from over. The base might be damaged, but the aliens would regroup, and she could not allow her children to be captured again. With Lily and Ethan clinging to her, she moved swiftly through the forested mountains. Jack and Mary followed closely, guiding them toward a safer path where the aliens would not easily track them. The night was dark and cold, but Lavra pressed on, driven by love and determination. Every rustle in the trees, every shadow, made her heart race. She kept her children close, whispering words of comfort. Lily and Ethan, though scared, trusted her completely, following her lead without hesitation. As they moved, Lavra thought about the aliens' strengths, their speed, intelligence, and technology. But she also thought about human strengths, adaptability, courage, and willpower. She had already survived challenges that seemed impossible. Now, she needed to turn her understanding of both human and alien strengths into a plan to stay ahead. The group found a hidden cave near a cliff, a perfect temporary shelter. They rested briefly, catching their breath and tending to minor scrapes and bruises. Lavra checked on the children, ensuring they were hydrated and calm. She shared a few morsels of food, making them smile with simple jokes and stories. It was important to keep their spirits strong. Fear could be just as dangerous as any alien threat. Jack studied maps and satellite data while Mary checked alien signals they had intercepted earlier. Lavra listened carefully, learning everything she could. She understood that knowledge would be as vital as strength in the days ahead. The aliens had technology, but humans had creativity and unpredictability, and she intended to use both to their advantage. Suddenly, distant lights appeared in the valley below. Laura's heart skipped a beat. Could it be another patrol? She quickly gathered the children and moved deeper into the cave. The glowing lights passed, revealing a group of alien scouts searching for intruders. Lavra held her breath, counting slowly until the aliens moved on. The children stayed silent, trusting their mother completely. The next day, they continued their journey down the mountains. Lavra led the group through hidden trails, avoiding main roads and open areas. She set small traps and markers to detect any following aliens. Her mind was sharp, planning for every possible danger. The children learned to move quietly, to hide when necessary, and to trust Laura's judgment without question. In the evening, they reached an abandoned research facility, partially destroyed, but still offering shelter. Inside, they found old supplies, communication equipment, and maps that could help them plan their next move. Lavra felt a sense of relief. It was a temporary haven, but it allowed them to rest and regroup. They set up a small camp, keeping watch on all sides. As night fell, Lavra thought about the aliens' next move. She knew they would try to track her and retrieve the children. She decided to create distractions and traps to confuse them. Using pieces of old equipment and materials she found in the facility, she prepared signals, noisemakers, and decoys. Every detail mattered. One mistake could cost them everything. Jack and Mary helped, but Lavra led the effort, drawing on her instincts and love for her children. She worked late into the night, double-checking every plan. Lily and Ethan slept nearby, exhausted but safe. Lavra watched them, her heart full of determination. No matter what came next, she would fight with everything she had. The following morning, they moved again, cautiously descending toward a river that could provide water and cover. Lavra noticed signs of alien patrols ahead and devised a clever plan. She set small traps along the trail and used natural obstacles to hide their movements. When the patrols arrived, they triggered distractions, allowing the group to move safely and undetected. Hours later, they reached a wide valley, open and exposed. Lavra knew they needed to cross it quickly. She used the terrain, timing their movements between shadows of trees and rocks. The aliens were aware of their presence, but the group's careful planning and Laura's leadership allowed them to remain undetected. Every step was tense, but every step brought them closer to safety. By evening, they reached the outskirts of a small town far from the mountains. Lavra knew this town could provide temporary safety and a chance to plan their next move. They moved quietly through the streets, careful to avoid attention. The children held on to Laura tightly, and she whispered reassurances, reminding them they were strong and brave. Inside a small, abandoned warehouse, they set up camp for the night. Lavra checked their supplies, rationing food and water, and reviewing their escape routes. She taught the children simple ways to defend themselves if necessary, though she hoped they would never need it. Her mind was always focused on protection and strategy. The night was long and filled with quiet tension. Lavra stayed awake, listening for sounds of alien patrols or drones. Every noise made her alert, but she remained calm and composed. She knew that fear could paralyze them, and she refused to allow it to control them. When dawn broke, the group moved toward a forested area that could hide them from alien detection. Lavra led them skillfully, using the terrain to their advantage. She taught the children to move quietly, to watch for danger, and to trust their instincts. They were learning survival, and Lavra felt proud despite the fear that still lingered. Finally, after days of careful movement, they reached a location Lavra deemed safe enough to rest and regroup. It was a hidden valley surrounded by cliffs and thick forest, providing natural protection. Here, Lavra allowed herself a brief moment of relief. They were still in danger, but for the first time in days, they felt a sense of security. Lavra held Lily and Ethan close, whispering words of comfort. She reminded them that they were safe for now, and that she would never stop protecting them. Jack and Mary joined them, sharing supplies and planning their next steps. The group knew the aliens would not give up easily, but they also knew that Laura's determination and courage made them a force to be reckoned with. As the sun set, Lavra looked out over the valley. The journey had been long, the dangers many, but her children were alive, and that was all that mattered. She felt a surge of resolve. The aliens had underestimated her, and she would not make the same mistake. Whatever came next, Lavra knew she would fight with every ounce of strength, skill, and courage she possessed. She had already survived impossible odds, and she would survive whatever lay ahead to protect her family. Lavra Miller stood at the edge of the hidden valley, holding Lily and Ethan close. The sun was rising, casting a soft golden light across the trees. After days of running, hiding, and fighting, they had finally found a place that felt safe. But Laura knew the aliens were still out there, and they would not stop until they had tried to retrieve her children. She had to finish this fight and make sure they could never come back. Jack and Mary joined her at the cliff edge, carrying supplies and setting up temporary communication equipment. They had been tracking alien movements for days, and the intel they gathered showed that a group of aliens had returned to the destroyed base to regroup. Laura's mind worked quickly, formulating a plan. She would not just hide anymore. She would strike. The plan was simple but dangerous. Using the knowledge of the alien base's layout and their patrol patterns, Lavra intended to set traps and create chaos, ensuring that the aliens would be too disoriented to pursue them again. She explained the strategy to Jack and Mary, who nodded in agreement. They trusted her instincts and determination, knowing she had already achieved what most would have thought impossible. Lavra spent the next hours preparing. She collected rocks, sticks, and any equipment she could find. With Mary's guidance, she set makeshift alarms, tripwires, and decoys. Every trap was placed carefully, designed to confuse and slow down any alien movement. She tested each one, ensuring it would work when needed. Lily and Ethan watched quietly, helping where they could, and learning the skills their mother had taught them over the past days. As night fell, the valley grew darker and colder. Lavra, Jack, and Mary moved to higher ground, overlooking the forest path that led to the valley. The aliens would likely come through this area, and Lavra wanted to ensure they had the advantage. She whispered instructions to the children, telling them to stay calm, quiet, and close. Their eyes were wide, but filled with trust. Soon, they saw lights moving in the distance. Alien drones glided silently over the trees, scanning for intruders. Lavra held her breath, signaling the children to duck behind rocks. She waited patiently, letting the drones pass over without triggering the traps. Then she released a decoy that emitted flashing lights and sounds, drawing some of the drones away from their path. The plan was working. The aliens were clever and persistent. They quickly realized the traps were meant to distract them, and more drones were dispatched. Lavra had anticipated this and adjusted her strategy. She led Lily and Ethan along hidden trails, moving silently and staying ahead of the alien scouts. Her heart raced with every step, but she focused on keeping her children safe and calm. Suddenly, a loud explosion echoed from the forest, a trap Laura had set earlier. The aliens reacted immediately, rushing toward the source. Lavra used the chaos to guide her family and allies further down the valley, where more traps were waiting. The explosions, noisemakers, and false signals created confusion among the aliens, and their coordination faltered. Hours passed as the group moved carefully through the valley. Laura's knowledge of human survival skills and the terrain gave them the advantage. She taught the children to move quietly, to hide, and to follow instructions without hesitation. Their trust in her made the difference. They moved as a unit, fast and efficient. By early morning, they reached a river that flowed through the valley. Lavra knew this natural barrier would slow any pursuing aliens. She led the children into the water, letting the current hide their movements and wash away any tracks. Jack and Mary followed, carrying supplies and making sure everyone was safe. The aliens' confusion increased as they reached the river. Unable to detect the group hiding in plain sight once across, Lavra guided the family to a hidden cave on the other side. It was small but secure, surrounded by thick foliage and high rocks. They rested, eating and drinking, regaining strength after the long night. Lavra held Lily and Ethan, letting them sleep while she remained awake, listening for any signs of alien pursuit. Her mind never stopped working, planning their next steps and ensuring their safety. Days passed in the hidden valley. The aliens made no immediate attempts to follow, giving the family time to recover. Lavra spent her time teaching Lily and Ethan skills they would need if danger arose again. They learned how to stay quiet, how to spot danger, and how to think quickly. Lavra wanted them to be strong, brave, and ready for anything. Finally, Lavra felt confident that the immediate threat was over. The aliens had been disoriented, confused, and slowed by the traps and diversions. They would regroup eventually, but Lavra had created enough obstacles to ensure her family's safety for now. She smiled, holding her children close. They were alive, together, and stronger than they had been before. With Jack and Mary, Lavra decided to move toward a safer, more permanent location. They needed a place where the aliens could not easily reach them, where they could live freely and rebuild their lives. Laura's heart was full of hope, and her resolve had never been stronger. She knew that humans were resilient, courageous, and clever. She had faced beings from beyond the stars and proven that love, determination, and courage could overcome even the most advanced enemies. As the sun rose over the valley, Lavra led her family down a hidden trail, leaving the dangers behind. Lily and Ethan walked close to her, their trust in her unwavering. Jack and Mary followed, sharing the same determination and hope. Together, they moved toward a future where they could live safely, free from fear. Lavra knew the journey had changed them all. They were stronger, braver, and more aware of the world around them. But most importantly, they had each other. And with that, Lavra felt certain of one thing: no force, alien or otherwise, could ever break the bond between a mother and her children. She had fought the impossible and won, and she would continue to protect her family, no matter what challenges lay ahead.